what high yield savings account is available to you, which is mostly all of them because they're all online and pretty accessible. But look at the percentage rate. Don't get too hung up on a couple basis points difference in percentage rates. And that can matter depending on how much, but it doesn't matter as much as you making a decision and having the confidence that you're going to make a decision that moves you forward to your goals.
T-minus 10 seconds.
Welcome to the Journey to Launch podcast with your host, Jamila Souffrant. As a money expert who walks her talk, she helps brave journeyers like you get out of debt, save, invest, and build real wealth. Join her on the journey to launch to financial freedom in
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
If you want the episode show notes for this episode, go to journeytolaunch.com or click the description of wherever you're listening to this episode. In the show notes, you'll get the transcribed version of the conversation, the links that we mentioned, and so much more. Also, whether you are an OG journeyer or brand new to the podcast, I've created a free jumpstart guide to help you on your financial freedom journey. It includes the top episodes to listen to, stages to go through to reach financial freedom, resources, and so much more. You can go to journeytolaunch.com/jumpstart to get your guide right now. Okay, let's hop into the episode. Hey, journeyers. Welcome to the Journey to Launch podcast. Welcome back. If you are a loyal journeyer who's been listening for a while, maybe you took a break, you came back to check in. Maybe you're totally new to the Journey to Launch podcast. I am your host, Jamila Souffrant, host of this podcast, Journey to Launch, that you're listening to, and author of the book, Your Journey to Financial Freedom. For this episode, going to switch things up and do something I haven't done in a while, which is a question and answer episode. So over the course of weeks, even months, I've received a few questions from listeners, from people who follow my content, whether through DM, on Instagram, or emails, or people who are on my list that respond to my weekly emails that I send out, and you guys have questions. And I haven't always been able to answer or get back to you, but I did start compiling a list, and I said, you know what, now is a great time to release an episode just addressing some of your questions. So I've compiled some of the most recent questions I've gotten. Some of them are a couple months old, but I think the topics here are evergreen, meaning someone else, if not the person who wrote this, is probably experiencing the same issue. And so I do believe that you'll be able to, even if it's not your specific question or it's not the exact same scenario, that you will be able to glean something from this. So with that, I'm going to go through some of the questions. All right. The first question is from Laura. She says, my name is Laura, and I just started listening to your podcast a couple weeks ago. I live in Connecticut. I'm the mother of 5 children, ages 11 to 22, and I've been divorced 3 years. I have so many questions as I listen to your podcast, and I guess my biggest one is, are there any episodes you could recommend me listening to that talks about getting back into the workforce after being divorced? I was a stay-at-home mom for 18 years. I'm 53 years old. I worked in the hospital for a few years. Now I recently bought an ice cream candy shop. I don't have good savings, and the store has a lot of slow times. I really just want to aspire to what your podcast is teaching, but I'm struggling on where to begin. So any recommendations on where to start, that would be great. I'm looking forward to this journey. Okay, Laura, first of all, congratulations to you. Round of applause. Round of applause for you getting back into the workforce after a divorce. I mean, you were married for a long time. You stay at home mom, which, by the way, that is a job. That is a career. That is dedication. As a mom myself, I get you. And so the fact that you dedicated all that time to your kids for that long, I just salute you, because I just know so much of that work that's done in the household by that stay-at-home parent is not always recognized if you were not bringing in actual income or dollars, but the work you've done and are doing is invaluable. Like, there's no amount of money that you could pay someone to really show the appreciation of raising children and how hard it is. So divorce, I know that must be hard starting over. And so I want to give you a few tips. So one of the things that I think will be helpful for anyone who listens to this podcast is that I have over 300 episodes. I mean, it's almost about to be 400 episodes on the podcast, probably by the end of the year for sure. But I have so much content. So I know sometimes it can be overwhelming depending on when you find me and this information. But one of the best things to do, if you have a specific question or topic and you want to see if I've discussed it or other podcast episodes, is to go to journeytolaunch.com. That is the home of all things Journey to Launch. So journeytolaunch.com. There's also a search button, whether you're on your phone or on a laptop, where you can put in keywords. And so I'm going to give you a few episodes that I pulled up that hopefully will be helpful, and then I'll give you some specific tips. But in this instance, you could put in divorce into journeytolaunch.com, and then it will bring up all the episodes, or at least most of the episodes, hoping that the search button works properly, that talk about divorce. And you can do this for any topic, really, and hopefully it will bring up some relevant information, and then it can search through all the episodes. So some of the episodes that came up right away when I put in divorce was actually a recent one, episode 373 with Jackie Cummings-Koski. The title of it is Overcoming Poverty, Divorce, and Achieving FIRE with Over a $1 million Portfolio. So that was episode 373. Another episode I will direct you to, or you can check out, is episode 235. This is with Dasha Kennedy, the broke Black girl. That is her IG handle and brand name. Title of that is Paying Off $30,000 of Debt, Financially Recovering from Divorce, and Building an Authentic Brand. And then the last one I give you, there are a couple more on the website, but the last one is episode 230, Reaching Financial Independence and Investing $750,000 After Divorce, with Dr. Lakeisha Simmons. And another pro tip for dealing or finding episodes on the website is just to put in journeytolaunch.com/episode and whatever episode number. So, okay, those are just 3 starting off tips in terms of hopefully helpful content, and then guiding you through how to find information on the website. Now, with that, let's talk about what to do with recovering from divorce and then a business. So again, congratulations on buying a business and having a business. That also is not easy. And with that, getting back into the workforce, a lot of times when we have been busy in areas of our life, when it comes to rearing children or running a household, we can let our connections and our relationships go by the wayside because we're so busy. So one of the things that I would encourage you to do is to work your network. And if that means you have to build one and reconnect with older or other people in your life before, then do that. Best ways to get started: reconnect with people on Facebook and LinkedIn. So now that you have a business and you are a small business owner, yes, you are a small business owner, get yourself on LinkedIn and have a proper profile in which if someone was to search for your business, they can find you as the owner, and you can be aware of all the business and small business opportunities in your area. Connect with other entrepreneurs or professionals in your community who have experience with running a small business or transitioning back into the workforce at a later in life point. So this can be online. So you'd be surprised how much helpful people and information there is on Facebook and the internet. Now, of course, you have to be careful because people on the internet can be very interesting. But I believe Facebook is a great place to find local groups and affinity groups that talk about something dealing with your business, whether it's brick and mortar or can help you as an entrepreneur in your area. And also in person. So what are your in-person local community support groups? I would talk to, if you have not already, the other small businesses on your block. I live in New York, so we say block, but in your strip, if you're in a strip mall or in your area, right? There are other businesses who you can connect with and ask questions. Do not be afraid of asking those questions and saying you need help if you need help. I would think about, you had mentioned in the question, there's slow periods. And of course, that's with all business. But being able to have a support system and ask questions to other businesses and cross-promote, if possible, is a great idea. I actually have a local ice cream shop around me where what I've seen them do is local fundraisers with schools. So a school will say the proceeds or a small percentage of the proceeds can go to maybe the PA, and that encourages people to come in to the ice cream shop to shop. And so approaching maybe some organizations, churches, and or schools to see if they want to partner with you to bring their community in. You can also offer your space for events and small things. That same ice cream shop did a Pokemon trading event, or just had kids come in with their Pokemon card books. I thought that was pretty smart to do for them because, that one-time person coming in for that one-time event hopefully will want to come back. So those are just ideas off the top of my head in terms of maybe creative ways to get more patrons, but ultimately it's about building a strong business foundation. And that is networking and connecting with other entrepreneurs and professionals. You'd be surprised how much support is within the community, whether it's through grants for, women of color, just what is out there for you at your local library, and researching and asking those questions. So network, ask the questions. Don't be afraid to, show vulnerability, but also to show that you are doing the thing. I'm impressed with what you've been able to accomplish. And so be proud of where you are. Have that confidence that you deserve to be where you are and that you can move forward. The other thing I'll just put out there is education and training. So are there some, whether it's courses and workshops that you can attend on different aspects of your business? So maybe it's marketing, maybe it's online marketing, right? So there's that online marketing piece where you want someone to be able to Google the area and ice cream or something that comes up and they find you. Are you searchable on the internet if someone is in your area? Are you on all the popular food review sites, the Yelp and Google, where they can find you? And then also, so that's like online, making sure you're positioned properly, but then in-person marketing. So what are some of those trainings that you can take that can help you with your business? A lot of online platforms offer affordable or free courses that you can look at. Again, Google is your best friend. Be careful, but search for things that you're thinking. Literally, whatever's popping into your mind as a statement, you can put in, free course for small entrepreneur, free course for ice cream, or different combinations of words that can start you with that first hyperlink that you click on that gets you somewhere else. The other thing that I would just say is self-care is very important. I know that's cliche, quote unquote. And a lot of times we think that self-care has to be costly. And so if you are in a financial bind, things are tight for you. I'm not, recommending that you go take a luxurious vacation or spend a lot of money on massages, but just taking time in this transition period to give yourself grace and to be gentle with yourself with this, right? Navigating a new venture and life after divorce, and you're still a mom, is emotionally challenging. It can be draining. So whatever that is, whatever it looks like, whether it's taking a walk or meditating or prayer, what you need to do to stay grounded, do that for yourself. And I'll just keep going back to seeking guidance and counseling from other people who have been in your situation, even divorce support groups, divorce support groups, and then entrepreneurial/business support groups that you can find in person or online. Keep looking for that. Remember, your journey is unique. So even if, you Google and you find some information, or you even listen to a podcast episode that I mentioned and doesn't line up completely with what you have gone through, take what you can from it. I like to say, take the meat, leave the bones. Not everything is going to apply, but in certain areas where you can apply it, be open to that advice. Be proud of yourself. I'm proud of you. All right, on to our next question. I believe this came in as an email. Dear Jamila, I hope this message finds you well. I'm Sharon, a dedicated listener and admirer of your work in personal finance. Your podcast has been instrumental in shaping my understanding of financial matters. I love your energy and your positivity. I recently learned about your Certified Financial Education Instructor, CFEI certification, and I am considering pursuing it to deepen my knowledge and help others through coaching them. I greatly value your expertise and would love to hear about your experience with the CFEI certification. Did you find it beneficial? Would you recommend it? I appreciate your time and thank you for consistently delivering valuable content through your podcast. Looking forward to your response. Thank you. Okay, so I like this question because I remember having this same question when I first started my entrepreneurial journey, when I knew that this could be a business and a pathway to freedom for me. So I don't exactly remember the exact year. So the blog was started in 2016. The podcast was started in 2017. And so I'm pretty sure I got my CFEI around that time, because when I first started, I didn't have intentions of coaching or presenting myself as, a personal finance quote unquote expert. I was really starting the brand or the blog at first to share my journey. Then, as what happens mostly when you start things, unexpected things happen next. And so I quickly realized and saw my unique maybe ability and skill to talk about money, to translate what I was learning and help other people. And I saw an opportunity to not only help myself through this journey, but to help other people. And I remember when I was first starting and thinking this could be a business, I didn't really know a lot of people within the space. I didn't really have any personal finance credentials. And that's the thing. You can't really, there's no personal finance. Now there are more personal finance, I guess, courses and ways to, I guess, teach someone and learn about coaching. There definitely are resources for that. But at that point, for me at least, I didn't have that, right? Like everything was self-taught. It was what I learned and applied in my life. And I figured, well, if I wanted to be eventually quoted in publications and if I wanted to legitimize myself, then I would need to have some certification. And I also wanted to learn proper techniques in helping other people. Because sometimes just because you know how to do it doesn't mean you know how to teach other people, right, to do it. I think that is a skill set. That's why I love teachers, because teachers, especially good teachers, know how to, teach concepts and break concepts down in a way and meet their student where they are. So with that, I was looking into different certifications. I remember looking at the CFP, which is the Certified Financial Planning designation, which is definitely a much harder, complicated, and different path to take than something as the CFEI. To me, the CFEI is a more basic way to just dip your feet in the water of learning how to talk about money and coach about money and legitimize, basically, if you are wanting to start a coaching business. So I went to the site. I will leave the website in the show notes for this, but it's the financialeducatorscouncil.org. And the Certified Financial Education Instructor, I'm just going to quickly read what they say it's for. It says the CFEI program helps individuals acquire the expertise, credibility, and self-assurance they need to teach money management lessons effectively. Graduates from the NFEC's Financial Literacy Certification Program demonstrates that you are qualified to teach the subject matter and increase your credibility as a financial education instructor. With over 6,000 enrollees to date, it's one of the established national standards for personal finance instructors, and this is the leading financial educator certification in the industry. One of the reasons why I also selected this is I had a couple other fellow entrepreneurs who took this, and also it was self-paced, which I loved. So I was working full-time at the time I did this. I love that I can do it on my own. I forgot how much I paid for this course. I don't think for me, everything is relative when it comes to a lot of money, but for me, it was affordable and something that I can do compared to the other programs that I looked at and in terms of time. So yes, it was worth it for me to take. It was a small investment considering the return on the investment, and the return on the investment for me was to understand how to teach basic concepts about money so I can better talk about it with you, to you. At that point, I thought financial coaching was going to be a big part of what I did, or at least I was open to trying it, which I was a coach for a while, for a couple of years, where I did one-on-one coaching. And then I did group coaching settings where I applied what I learned. And ultimately, when you're being quoted, so I've been quoted in numerous publications or on TV, so New York Times, Good Morning America, Essence, Business Insider, you name it, when they are positioning you as an expert or someone that other people should listen to, having a designation, it legitimizes what you're talking about, right? And so deciding what you want to do with the pathway that you're on, do you want to be, and this is for anyone listening who's thinking about creating personal finance content, do you want to do it from a place of this is my story? And because people are very successful when, they talk about just my story and are upfront, like, didn't go to school for this, not certified. I'm not, designated to give you investment advice, but this is just my personal opinion. That's one way to do it, where you're creating a personal finance, almost entertainment or accountability platform where people can kind of see what you're doing and you're teaching what you know, versus, people who want to become coaches and talk about money and be able to teach money in a certain way. So that might look like doing workshops at colleges and schools and churches. For some of that, right? You don't necessarily need a certification or a degree to do that, but it can't hurt. It can't hurt if that's the route you want to take. And it's a great start, because then you may see, okay, I want to go further than this. I want to learn more. I want an even more legitimate, maybe designation that is more rigorous to get into, right? So this one, I believe you basically sign up and you do the coursework, you take the test, you pass it. Versus there are some other programs where it's more rigorous to go through and get into, and it's months of work and preparation. I believe I completed this in a couple of weeks because it was self-paced, whereas maybe someone else, depending on their lifestyle or life obligations, it may take them longer. So it's just thinking about where you want to go. But all that to say, I think it's a great starting point if you are looking to just dip your toe into the water and teaching about money and talking about money. Also, if you want the confidence to do that. So some people can just talk about things and present themselves as experts, and they don't feel like they need any designations to do that. And then some people are like, you know what, I want to make sure I understand this properly. I am doing that work behind the scenes, and I want to feel more confident by saying I went through this program. And so if that's more of you, then doing a designation like this is not a bad idea. So I would recommend it. They're not paying me to do this. I just know that when I got my CFEI, it helped a lot in terms of my confidence and giving me just a designation to say, okay, I know something about teaching about money. And if you want to go further, some other things I would recommend, especially if you're thinking about teaching about money, I'm going to go back to networking and understanding community, because another thing that I learned and what I seeked out is, okay, if I want to be a coach, which is what I thought back in the day at some point, who are other coaches that I could learn from? What courses are they taking? So the CFEI may be a entry point, but when I joined other groups, so FinCon, for example, when I went to FinCon, which is a finance conference, a personal finance conference for creators, then I realized that there were different levels to what people were doing to earn money in the personal finance space. Some people, their main way they made money was coaching. And it wasn't through a CFP, which is the certified financial planner, where they are a financial planner and it's more rigorous, but it was just through coaching. And I got to talk to them, see what their life was like. And, after a while, I realized that's not how I wanted to earn a living through Journey to Launch. And so being able to surround myself with people who were doing this already was very helpful. So I recommend joining those Facebook groups, asking the questions of people who have the designations, and seeing if that's something that you want to do. Okay, hope that helped. Next question is from Nicole. She says, I can't find resources for the better option between a money market account with my credit union, where I already use direct deposit, and a high yield savings account. I'm not interested in moving my direct deposit. This is to move my emergency funds of $5,000 that's been sitting in my regular savings account. I'm a 48-year-old teacher who is getting a divorce and interested in leaving teaching before retirement and starting to invest for the first time in my life. I'm very overwhelmed and depressed that I haven't done any significant saving for retirement. Okay, Nicole, I'm going to tell you to take a deep breath right now. If you're listening, and to anyone who also feels this way, feeling overwhelmed and depressed that you have not done enough. I honestly think that it's never enough. It never feels like enough. And so that's not to minimize your feelings. It's to meet you where you are and to tell you that I felt the same way. I feel that same way sometimes, I could have done more. I should be doing more. And so you are legitimate in the way you feel. Going back to just giving you grace, you're a teacher, so kudos to you. I always say teachers are saving the world one child at a time, going through a divorce that cannot be easy. And so I just want to give you grace and credit where it is due. All right, let's just do some definitions for anyone who is not aware of like a money market account versus a high yield savings account. Money market account is a interest-bearing account, usually at a bank or credit union, and it typically offers a higher percentage returns over a traditional savings account, but sometimes not. It all depends on the bank and the institution. And then the high yield savings account is a savings account that offers an above average annual percentage yield on deposits. And typically those can be found at more online institutions, which is why they're able to offer such a higher interest yield because they don't have the overhead that a traditional bank has. So for example, if you look at your maybe current traditional brick and mortar banks saving interest rate, annual percentage rate, it might be 0.05% that you're getting back on your money versus a high yield savings account, which can, depending on the market, can be up to 5% of a return that you are getting, which is a big difference, depending on how much money you have in there. So it does make a difference having your money in a regular savings account for emergencies or for quick access versus a high yield savings account. So with that, this question is about moving $5,000 of your emergency fund. And so a high yield savings account, just like a traditional savings account, is still federally insured for up to $250,000 and is generally a safe place to park your money. It may take you a longer time to access it depending on which institution you go with to deposit your money. But for many accounts, it's just as easy as creating a link between your traditional checking and saving to your online saving. And if you need the money, transferring it, which may take a couple of days, and then you can access it. No one's paying me, or no company is going to pay me right now to say this. I'll give you just a couple of names. I currently use Ally Bank for my online savings account, but there are other places like SoFi, and you can do a Google search, and it will actually, there are some sites that will bring up and compare the current percentage rates on high yield savings account. So this is one of those questions where don't let it over consume you and think about for months and months at a time. This is fairly a low risk decision. So this is not like, okay, I have to move my retirement account from, my current, maybe my ex job, to a new investment broker. That is a more involved decision that takes that to me is a more emotionally charged decision. This decision, just to give you just some assurance, is something that involves putting your money into a relatively safe account and making sure that you're going with a reputable company. As long as you're going with a reputable company that is insured, so it's still something that is FDIC or NCUA insured by the government, which means your money is safe and you can talk to a person when you call and have questions and or transfer your money without issues to your traditional bank, then it's not something that I would obsess about in a way where you don't make a decision. So I would look at what high yield savings account is available to you, which is mostly all of them because they're all online and pretty accessible. But look at, the percentage rate. Don't get too hung up on, a couple basis points difference in percentage rates. Some places might offer 5%. Some places offer maybe 4%. That's a whole 1% difference. And that can matter depending on how much, but it doesn't matter as much as you making a decision and having the confidence that you're going to make a decision that moves you forward to your goals. So I just want to give you that confidence if you need it in terms of doing that. The other thing that you didn't ask me about, but I just want to say, is that you're a teacher. You say that you don't feel like you've saved enough. So I would look at your teaching retirement account and see what's going on there. I would look at how much you have been, if you've been contributing at all, you can always increase it. You can increase it by 1%, a few dollars, but something that if you can, right? If you can withstand that in your budget to give you that momentum. Every dollar counts at this point. And so being able to kind of go to your account, see where you are, and don't be afraid to look. I think for a lot of us who feel like they should be doing more or you have not done enough, you don't want to look. And so if you haven't looked, and this is for anyone listening, go look at it. Go see what you've been doing and make that change today. Make that change right now. But generally, I'm a fan of high yield savings account. I think because your money is safe there, just as it would be in a traditional savings account, that you can park your emergency savings, or if you're saving, for example, a house or a car or a vacation even, and that won't take place, like you won't use that money for a couple of years or a few months, you can earn a good return on that money by just parking it there. Hi, Jamila here, host of this podcast and author of the book, Your Journey to Financial Freedom, a step-by-step guide to achieving wealth and happiness. Just a few years ago, I was in a job I didn't like, with a long commute, feeling stuck. I knew there had to be a different, better way. Then I found the pathway to financial freedom and financial independence. Today, I have more money, options, and freedom than I ever thought was possible. And in my book, Your Journey to Financial Freedom, I'll show you how you can achieve that too. You'll learn how to spend and save responsibly, all while enjoying that spicy margarita and extra side of guacamole. Determine where you are on the journey and evaluate your spending and saving goals accordingly. Quit your job, retire early, or reach financial independence. My book, Your Journey to Financial Freedom, a step-by-step guide to achieving wealth and happiness, is out now and available on Amazon, bookshop.org, Barnes & Noble, and more. You can even listen to the audiobook narrated by me. Go to yourjourneytofinancialfreedom.com to get a free bonus when you order the book and see all the places to buy it. Once again, go to yourjourneytofinancialfreedom.com. All right, let's go to this next question, which actually is a voice message question.
Hi, Jamila. My name is Shalia, and I just discovered your podcast about a month ago, and it has been literally all I've listened to. I'm up to episode 72, and I'm loving every bit of it. I remember in the beginning episodes, you discussed how you brought information to your husband to bring him on board, to let him know that this is something that's viable, something that we could do or that you guys could do. What exactly did you present to him to essentially get him to see, like, okay, yes, this could work? I'm trying to get my husband on board, but I need to really make my case to really bring him on board because I'm talking about it every day. He hears me listening to your podcast daily, but he needs to see the cold hard facts, essentially, as to how this can work for us. Thank you so much and keep on shining.
Thank you, Shalia, for that message. By the way, my bestie's name is also Shalia. I think it's spelled differently, but I love that. Great question, because if you are partnered up, booed up, seriously, like someone that is your life partner, this is very important for the journey to financial independence or freedom, because even if you're not even combining your finances, you're on this journey together. And because so much of what you do is combined, like you live together, especially you have kids or decisions you have to make together, it's so important to be on the same page. I'm going to direct you to some episodes, Shalia, that were older episodes, but I thought, and you said you were up to, I think, episode 30 something by now that you're hearing this. If you still listen, it's you probably caught up a lot more. But I'm just going to, for other people who are listening, shout out episode 20 of my podcast. So that's episode 20, a money chat with my husband, where I actually had my husband on the podcast. So journeytolaunch.com/episode 20. And you can hear from him, even though that was years ago. I probably need to have him back on at some point for an update. But we talked about how he felt on this journey, where I was the one that was definitely more intense or wanted this change in our finances and kind of had to convince him and bring him along. There are also some other episodes you can check out. Episode 139, Love and Money, how they got on the same page to pay off $32,000 of debt with Lido and Shamika. I actually did a case study, or I mentioned their case study in my book, Your Journey to Financial Freedom. And then the last one I would give, even though I have tons of more episodes with couples talking about this, is episode 246, Paying Off $123,000 of Student Loan Debt with Angie and RJ from Rich by Intention. So just a couple episodes to check out that talk about love and money and getting on the same page. Now, when it comes to my husband and what we did, it depends on how intense you want to be and the personality of your partner. Because, I don't think it's necessarily a male or female or traditional kind of like male or female role issue at all, because I know that there are some men who are the ones that are more on it with the finances versus like women, and vice versa, or both. And so in my case, I was the one that was just a bit more methodical, and even without the money, about like what I wanted to do with my life. I'm very much a planner. I call it like, I'm like organized chaos in a way, because I don't necessarily plan all the small things in my life, but like big major things I plan. And so with that, realizing and discovering the financial independence movement, I set like this goal, because I said to myself, there's no way I'm going to be commuting this far, doing all this work that I don't love, and then being the one to bear the children and like have this be my life. And so it was really important that I show him how me being happy and us being stable while, because this is at the beginning, before we even had kids, right? Like we were starting our family before we had our 3 kids, why it was so important for us to get on the same page with this. One of the things that helped immensely was showing him the numbers. So yes, I heard you say your husband sees you listening to, or hears you listening to podcasts. Maybe you bring things up to him. But I know that showing my husband like the math behind what I wanted to do was going to be important, because I can say it like, oh, what if we're millionaires? What if I'm able to quit my job? All that sounds good, but like, is it possible? And so I wanted to show him, and this is where I created something I call the fire calc. If you read the book, if you've been listening for a while, you've heard of the fire calc. But I wanted to see what it would be like if we continue our same investing and saving strategy, didn't change a thing, versus if we made some changes to our finances. And so being able to model out our life and what we would be, this was years ago, so by 40, 45, 50, 55. And then show him this is what happens if we don't do anything and we keep things regular. And this is what's possible if we make these changes. And so showing him that, wow, like there were like millions more in our accounts if we made these changes and maybe sacrificed a little bit up front, started to let him see that this was a viable thing that I was talking about. It wasn't just something that I was making up. So I think numbers are very helpful. So if there's any way that you can show the numbers, whether you print out or you show where you guys currently are with your finances, even like the budget, right? There might be some things you do up front at first, and maybe you compile that budget and you show where your money is going, and you sit down. And then once that person sees it, it causes them to have a different emotion and reaction, because it's real, versus the avoidance or thinking about it where you can not think that it's real. Also, what helped him come on board was bringing his goals into it. So I knew my goal was to be able to quit my job and not have to commute. But he was fine with his commute. His commute was like 10, 15 minutes. He was fine with his job. For him, he didn't foresee a life where he quit his job early. He didn't see that. But when we were having our kids, one of the things that I said to him was, all right, I know that you maybe never want to quit your job or you're comfortable right now, but let's just say, our kids are in college, and by the time they're in college, we'll be in our early 50s. And what if we do want to retire? Or what if you do want to step away? Or what if you want to have that flexibility? Let's just say they're doing something where you want to be a part of that. I always bring up sports just because he's a basketball guy. Our kids are currently playing basketball. And so it's just like, don't you want to have that flexibility if by chance, setting the dream up. They play college basketball. They play high school basketball. You want to have that flexibility to be there for them if you want. Or you want to take vacations. My husband likes nice things. He likes to go on vacation. Wouldn't you want to have the flexibility to do that and still be young and healthy and enjoy our lives. And so I think creating that vision for him and not just what I wanted was important. Coming down, we talked about this in that episode he was on about cars, right? So I think sometimes a hesitation for a partner is getting better with your finances means cutting back and not having the nice things or the finer things, which can be true, depending on where you are and what you have to sacrifice. And so even with him, I knew having a car, and I always say this, we had more luxury cars in our 20s, and then we started having kids and we got more economical. But, I made sure to tell him, I think, if we can afford a nicer car one day and kind of get back to that, I'd love to do that. And it's still kind of like a goal I have for us, letting him know, I think we should make these changes because it will put us in a better position without totally depriving us. We can still work towards some of the things that you want in your life. We can still take the vacation, and maybe we can't take the luxurious vacation right away, right? So we didn't take nice vacations and we got the more economical cars, but now we're in a place where we can take nicer vacations and we can do more things. And maybe a nicer car is in our near future. And so I think being able to tell them that and have those real conversations, hopefully will help your husband, and his motivation may not be any of the things that my husband's motivations are. And his motivations can change, but really sit down and get to understand what fuels him. And this goes for anyone listening, what fuels your partner. For me, if my husband came to me and said, let's say the roles were reversed, and he was the one that was all gung-ho about personal finance and financial independence. And, I was living my life, spending the money because that's what I'm working hard for. But he approached it and understood that I was unhappy in my job. He would know then my motivation would be to eventually not work in that job forever. And so that would motivate me to listen a bit more and try new things. And so figure out what that motivation is for them, get them excited about it, have a say and compromise. Maybe you can't be as intense as you want. And maybe it starts out slow. When I thought about it and thought how much we could invest aggressively, I'm like, let's just max everything out right away. But I was comfortable doing that, but he wasn't at first. And so we did it slowly. He started to increase his retirement percentage slowly. And then in a couple months, he was like, you know what, let's just do it. And so he maxed his out after a while when he felt comfortable. So best of luck, Shalia, on your journey together with your partner. Just remember to listen to them, to talk it through and give it some time. Just because you're excited about it doesn't mean they're going to always get as excited as quickly, and that's okay. Okay, last question. Hey, Jamila, I have been a fan since you started back in 2018. Your podcasts have helped me navigate my savings, early career, strategizing, paying off my student loans, and even buying my first house. You've been my favorite source of financial guidance over these years. I was wondering if you have any blogs or episodes about the finances of family planning. I'm considering if my spouse and I should have a child, but the money aspect feels the scariest. I know you have a lot of other episodes on other things, and I believe one is saving for college and student loans, but nothing explicitly on how to financially prepare for kids. Well, first, thank you so much for being a journeyer and listener of the podcast. I'm so helpful. It's helped you through navigating so many aspects of your life. And yes, family planning is indeed a significant decision. And I love that you're considering it because the financial aspect, I think so many people don't consider that part if they can, right? As part of the decision-making process. And so no, I don't have specific episodes on family planning, but I can give you some tips right here and then keep that in mind maybe for a future episode that relates just to that. So with that, I'm going to give my own personal ramble and then I'll give you tips. I think having children can be as expensive as you want. I think there are some unavoidable things, right? So just being pregnant and the medical care and take time off of work, especially depending on the type of job you have. Do they give you maternity leave and all that cost are things that are just unavoidable. So it's important to take that into consideration. And then childcare. I think one of the biggest things for parents is paying for childcare if you have a working parent or both parents work. And that can be very, very expensive, that daycare cost. So thinking ahead about what those costs are going to be important. I do think for some people that it will never feel like you're ready or financially ready just because life happens and there's so many, just apart from survival and being able to pay for your basic needs, like your own rent or mortgage and your own food, is like now adding in additional things like childcare and the future expenses, diapers, food that come with having a kid. And so it can often feel like who's ever ready for that? And so I think sitting down and taking a real look at your budget is key. Thinking and looking back at how you spent, and this is something I think everyone should do, family planning or not, even if you're just thinking about making a major change in your life, maybe relocating or buying a house, is looking at your cash flow. What's coming into your household, what is going out, and just getting a sense of where you are and what is the gap. Is there any gap in that? I talk about this in the book, Your Journey to Financial Freedom, the difference between your income and your mandatory expenses equals a gap. And then with that gap, so that difference allows you to pay down your debt, invest and save, so increase your assets, and then pay for discretionary expenses. Now, without children, if you're in the stages of family planning, what does that look like? If you were to categorize all your expenses and then your income, what does your gap look like? Do you have a gap? Knowing that you will have kids where your gap, you'll have to redirect money. So the only way to increase your gap is to earn more money and or to decrease your expenses. And thinking forward, okay, whether it's you or you and a partner, are there future income sources you can depend on that's going to help cover any additional expenses? Or are there current expenses that you can cut back on, that you need to cut back on to prepare? You may be in a stage right now where you're paying off debt and doing other things, right? Like saving up for something. And you may need to divert that money, right? The additional debt payments to saving for having a baby. And that's okay. I believe that life's moments and life takes precedence over sometimes the financial goals we set for ourselves. Because if your money is limited and you have a baby on the way, it's important to save for that baby, to me, and make sure that you're financially okay versus putting all your additional money into paying off additional debt above the minimum payment. So it's okay to change and divert your goals and where your income is going to help prepare for this. So budgeting helps you see that. It helps you to see where your money has been going and what future changes you can make moving forward to accommodate the additional expenses associated with having a child. And then, you're thinking again about childcare, healthcare, diaper, clothing, and education savings. Now, some of that, like education savings, are not things you need to think about right now. I do want to pump the brakes if you're someone who's saying, oh my gosh, I have to now do that too. You don't have to do that right away. The most important things is to think about how are you going to handle medical care and things like diapers and clothing and the essential care for your baby. The other thing that is important is your emergency fund. So anything can happen, and having just something set aside is going to be important. So how do you build up an emergency fund for unexpected expenses that may arise during pregnancy or even after the birth? The typical rule of thumb can be at least 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses. I know depending on where you are in your financial journey, that can be a lot, but having something is going to be important. So how much would that be? How much would you need to do that? I'd also review health insurance. So whether that is your health insurance or maybe a partner's health insurance, understand what is covered for prenatal care, labor and delivery, and all the pediatric care expenses that are involved. What is covered? Getting an understanding of that is important. I know that sometimes you have all these unexpected expenses that you were not expecting after you visit the doctor. And so understanding what they are so you can at least know it, so it helps to prepare for that, is important. What is your parental leave? Extremely important to explore your options for parental leave from your employer. If you work for the government, calculate how much time you can take off. And if you have to then forego sometimes payment or income to do that. I know I was very blessed and lucky and fortunate in my situation where my job gave me a good amount of time off. And then I was able to plan out. I was able to use my vacation days and even had some unpaid time at the end of it to help sustain me to have up to a 6-month time break after I gave birth. So think about and plan out what that looks like. And if there's going to be a loss in income, how will you cover that? Other things that are future things I don't want you to necessarily worry about now, but to have in the back of your head for when the time is right is the education savings, child care cost, and estate planning. Those are going to be important things that you look at. So I know that this feels daunting, everything I just mentioned, and it can feel overwhelming, but remembering to discuss this, hopefully, if you do have a partner, with your partner, share that burden, share that responsibility with them, and talk to other people who in your life who maybe also had children about some of the things they experienced or costs that they did not expect, and kind of rally your community around you to start thinking through, okay, what am I missing here? Or maybe I'm thinking about this not too much, but in a way that is actually taking away from this thing that I want to do, this important thing that if it's what you want to do and if it makes sense for you. Okay, Journeyers, I hope you enjoyed that Q&A episode. If you want me to do more Q&A episodes, let me know. I always like your feedback. The more you tell me you like something, the more I will consider doing it. So you can always reach out and share your thoughts if you're listening to this. Screenshot the episode and share it on social media. Tag me at Journey to Launch or even at Jamila Souffrant so I can hear that you're listening, that it helped you. And then if you do have a question for a future Q&A episode, you can always DM me at Journey to Launch. You can respond to my weekly newsletter if you're on my list. So you should be on my list. You can go to journeytolaunch.com/join if you just want to join the weekly newsletter and to be up to date on all the going-ons that are happening here at Journey to Launch that I don't always share publicly. So hint, hint, you should get on my list. I'm making some announcements to my list soon first, and they'll be the first to know. So get on it. journeytolaunch.com/join. And also, if you want to leave a voice memo for a question or just you want me to hear your voice as you always hear mine, go to journeytolaunch.com/voicemail. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Please continue to share the podcast with your family and friends, coworkers, loved ones. Why journey on this path alone? It's always best when you know someone in real life who can champion you and encourage you. So I always say, share the knowledge, share the wealth, copy the link to this, send it to them, say, hey, check it out. And remember, you can also check out my book, Your Journey to Financial Freedom. You can go to yourjourneytofinancialfreedom.com to see all the places to buy it, including Amazon, Barnes & Noble, your local bookstores. Basically, it's everywhere, even in airports. So you can find out at yourjourneytofinancialfreedom.com all the places to get the book. It has links directly to a lot of the websites where to buy the book. And of course, if you have read the book, please leave a review. All right. Until next time, keep on journeying, journeyers. Don't forget, you can get the episode show notes for this episode by going to journeytolaunch.com or click the description of wherever you're listening to this. And you can still grab your Jumpstart Guide for free to help you on your journey to financial freedom by going to journeytolaunch.com/jumpstart. If you want to support me and the podcast and love the free content and information that you get here are 4 ways that you can support me and the show. 1, make sure you're subscribed to the podcast wherever you listen, whether that's Apple Podcasts, that purple app on your phone, your Android device, YouTube, Spotify, wherever it is that you happen to listen, just subscribe so you are not missing an episode. And if you're happening to listen to this in Apple Podcasts, rate, review, and subscribe there. I appreciate and read every single review. Number 2, follow me on my social media accounts. I'm at Journey to Launch on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and I love interacting with journeyers there. 3, support and check out the sponsors of this show if you hear something that interests you. Sponsors are the main ways we keep the podcast lights on here, so show them some love for supporting your girl. 4, and last but not least, share this episode, this podcast with a friend or family member or coworker so that we can spread the message of Journey to Launch. All right, that's it. Until next week, keep on journeying, journeyers.